Director for the Middle East for Bent Events, and it is my pleasure to now introduce to you your moderator for the next session. Now, David Harper, could you please join me? Now, David is Head of Property Services at Hotel Partners Africa, and they are truly an African company, having done business in 50 of the African countries.
50 of the 4, yeah.
50. And you actually ran a competition to find out if anyone knew the 4 countries that you had not done business in.
We did, yes. So basically, I think an awful lot of you actually entered. There are 4 of the 54 countries we have not worked in. We asked you to try and guess who it was. The closest we got was someone who got 3 of the 4 right.
No one got 4.
No one got 4.
Tell us what are the 4.
So the 4 that we haven't worked in: Mauritania, Guinea-Bissau. The confusing one is Madagascar, because you would have thought we would have worked there. The 4th one is slightly controversial: Somalia. We've worked in Somaliland, which is technically part of Somalia. So that's why no one got 4.
So who won?
Freddie from Vincard, would you like to come and get your champagne? I think that's because he follows me on Facebook.
Excellent.
Well done, mate.
Thank you very much.
Now, David, I will hand over to you for one of the key panels, the owner-operator panel.
Fabulous, thank you. Okay, so we are very lucky today. We have got a good mixed panel of operators, owners, operator owners. So can I, with no further ado, ask my panel to come up, please? So as far as I'm concerned, today's panel is marriage guidance. The arrangement between an owner and an operator is sometimes difficult. It is normally very beneficial if it's put together properly. But there are all sorts of problems that come along, and so we do think of it as marriage guidance. You've basically got to try and make sure it's a partnership that works for all of you. You can't just jump into bed with the first person you see, quite frankly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask everyone here just to spend a couple of minutes telling you who they are so you know, and then we're going to jump right into some of the biggest problems that we've got. So I think I'm going to start with Haddis. I know we're in the middle here. Would you like to give me a couple of minutes on yourself?
Sure. My name is Haddis Tilahun. I'm the founder and executive director of United Africa Group. I would quickly go to the hospitality sector of United Africa. I've been in the hospitality business for the past 20 years. And my role was basically investing in hotels. I have gone from building, owning it, introducing my own brand, and then gone into a franchise, management, then to franchise. So I have a relationship with Protea by Marriott and Hilton and Hilton Garden Inn. So those are my relationship in terms of management contract.
Fabulous. Ali?
Good morning, everyone. My name's Ali. I represent and head up Citymax Hotels, company formed and developed in the UAE. We own and operate a number of properties in the UAE and a number of properties on management outside of the UAE, very much in the 3-star, if you like, mid-scale budget sector, very standardized product, cookie cutter if you like, but with an exceptional twist of amazing teams providing exceptional service and value.
I'm Bani Haddad from Aleph Hospitality. We are the leading third-party management company in the Middle East and Africa with a portfolio of 10 hotels on the African continent, predominantly in East Africa, Ethiopia, Kenya. We have announced Zanzibar, 2 properties in Zanzibar yesterday as well. So we provide management services as an independent company.
Excellent. And then Alexis.
So my name is Alexis Janoray. I look after development for Accor in Africa. I've joined Accor 3.5 years ago, but I've been involved in Africa over the last, it's going to be 8 years now that I've worked in Africa. I was previously actually a banker, and I'll come back to that because I think I can give an interesting perspective in terms of the evolution of my perspective of the subject we're talking about today. I used to finance hotel projects in Africa to back owners, of course, in projects that were developed together with the operator. I'm not going to talk about Accor because Gaurav has spent 20 minutes explaining where we are and where we want to be.
But you will give us an interesting perspective of being
exactly.
an operator.
I think we were one of the last major operator to actually change our business model into being a pure asset-light player, but still having created several joint ventures and platforms to indirectly still be owners of assets. So I'll be happy to explain how I see this evolution and the benefits of this evolution.
Perfect. The reason I say this is marriage guidance, I act as an expert witness, in many cases, disputes between owners and operators where things have gone slightly wrong. There are so many ways that a contract can go wrong, and I just thought we should delve into it because it's the hidden secret that no one talks about. We all know that if you are if you're an owner, you don't necessarily operate hotels, and if you bring an expert in, they're going to help you generate more profit. But there are all sorts of pitfalls that might come along your way. But then, from that perspective, there's pitfalls for the operators as well. If they turn around and get into bed with the wrong owner, it can cause them problems. So let's start with you, Ali. Can you give me some of the problems that you've seen as an operator that have caused you fuss?
I'm starting to regret our drink last night in our conversation. I think David and I were chatting a bit about this yesterday. And what I was saying to David is that the fundamental issue that you have is that a management contract, I mean, even the name, management contract or management agreement, it doesn't lend itself to any kind of thoughts of partnership at all. That's the first thing. The second thing is it's a bit like negotiating, not even a prenuptial, it's a bit like negotiating a divorce financial settlement before you even start dating.
Yeah.
And I think the major pitfall that I see is that, particularly for somebody in the kind of arena that I'm in, where I'm dealing a lot with first-time owners, first-time developers of hotels who may have core businesses elsewhere, they have somewhere between very little sort of expert input right the way through to quite unhelpful, almost too much input from people who are feeding them in the ears. And I think finding the ground where there is very open, honest conversations, a meeting of minds, a meeting of expectations, and not surrounding round fees and service charges and contracts and clauses and underwriting and guarantees and all those things that actually just make a marriage, if you like, very, very difficult. So I think meeting first, understanding each other's expectations, because actually probably the bravest thing to do in negotiating a contract between an owner and operator is to say, do you know what, we've had a good chat, I've had a good look at your product, I've had a good look at you as an owner, but we're just not for each other. So sometimes walking away is harder, but better early on.
No, that's fair enough. Bani, have you got any idea how that you can actually try and make sure that both the operator and the owner are aiming in the same direction to make sure that you have got those sort of, you're focused at the same point?
Yeah, so the title of the panel is owner-operator. Now, I think what you mean by operator, most of the time people are saying it's the brand. So in our case, slightly different, because we work with the brand, but we work for the owner, and we operate on behalf of the owner, working very closely with the brand. Now, if I may, I hate this marriage concept, and everyone says it's a marriage. And when you start like this, in my opinion, and I used to, when I started in the hospitality industry and in the development and growing, that's what you repeat, because it's a long-term relationship, etc., and you do have to agree on a variety of things. But in reality, it's not a marriage. It's a service agreement. As an operator, I'm here to service someone who has invested a lot of money in building a hotel.
So you would happily take on board a property and just be subservient entirely to the owner? And the owner tells you what they want, and you do that? I mean, I know you're flexible with the white label, where you don't have brand standards.
So our model is obviously much more flexible.
Yeah.
But what I mean, it's not really a marriage. It's because we're not equal, right? I did not invest as much as he did. I'm investing a lot, time, efforts, putting the systems, the standards. But if I wanted to have a hotel, I would have invested myself. So I'm here to render a service for an owner to maximize his profits. So the philosophy is slightly different. The approach becomes slightly different. Now, there are certain boundaries. The relationship has to be defined, obviously. But coming back to Ali's point, the philosophy, when you start discussing with an investor, I don't see it as a marriage. I see it as us coming to render a service.
Alexis?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to react on this and all these very interesting points. I agree. I think it's not a marriage. It's a partnership. And I think coming back to your point on Africa, we're in a market where we deal with a lot of first-time owners,
Yep.
which sometimes, of course, don't have as much experience as big institutional investors in the US or in Europe. And I think that's where it's important for us operator and I guess including Bani, just to manage expectations, just to clarify what the roles are, and just for them, well, not to create any kind of disappointment. I mean, we are here to provide, a service, and sometimes the role of the operator can just be misled and come back to disappointments just because it is seen as being opportunistic. It can be seen as pretty much not being fully aligned in terms of interest, in terms of risk taking. But it's just a different model, and that's something. Each time we deal with partners in Africa, we try to make sure initially that what we're proposing is actually the right solution, what he's looking for, that he's happy with the key principles, and taking through the key structuring points around the liabilities and these kind of things.
I love the idea of it being, the operators being subservient to the owner. I really do. It's not always my experience. I'm going to bring Haddis in here, because as an owner who has negotiated many of these contracts in the past, you can give us a little bit of insight into some of the challenges you've had.
Sure. When last night when I went back to my room, I started thinking about it. What would I share with you guys today? I can only share with you guys my experience and what I know. And then what I can tell you is that I have invested hotel just by default. I have not even thought about it. I was doing business, and then I have extra money. Somebody asked me, let's do business, and then I said, oh, I can do it. Yeah, why not? I put money. But at the end of the day, what happened is that I have learned the hard way. I have so many scars I can show you, how much money I burned. Now, the truth is, I do like the brands. I have no problem. They're a great system. They really deliver a great opportunity for you to grow your business. They have so much knowledge. There's so much expertise. But the catch is they take more money than you. So in other words, I dropped so much money, and I am the last one to receive the return. To make it very simple, from the start, you go and identify the site. You go in and negotiate with the local authority. You put a team of professionals. It takes you between 3 to 5 years to get that hotel finished. It could be 150 rooms, or it could be 300 rooms. It doesn't matter. It could be mid-scale, or it could be upscale. You build that. And you have dropped probably 30 million, 50 million, 65 million dollars. And in a very simple term, if you want to recoup your money in 10 years, 20 years, figure it out how much money you need to bank in every year just to get your money back. That's the first question. The second question is that, how is the distribution of that income is going to put you, and where is you in that waterfall structure? Day one, you open, you funded or you financed the pre-opening expenses. Actually, the opening, the launch, all those celebrations, you paid for it. Everybody enjoyed it. The hotel opened. Month's end, the management company took their fee. You, probably not. The first 3 years, you might not make money. They tell you, in hotel business, you won't make money for the first 3 years. You say, yeah, maybe true. Then you go back to your bank and then negotiate. Oh, maybe I will start paying the principal in 3 years' time. Just give me a break for the first 3 years. Let me service the interest. Of course, it's true. You're not going to make money. But all the time, every day, the operator makes money. And then they take money that first day, the next month, the months after, you probably are not going to make money. So how are you going to make these things real? So according to my experience, if I had known this when I signed the first contract, I'd have negotiated differently. And all the time I say the same thing. But they always win. Why? Why? Because they're way clever, very smart, highly backed with expertise, knowledge, and historical data. They know you, and they know the market before you. So they encourage you, they tell you, we love you, we service you, and all this good story. But the bottom line is that you're the last to get your money out. So therefore, you're anchored for a certain time to come. So how are we going to make this better? Like I said, they're good people, they're bright, and then you want to work with them, they'll make a difference in your life. The lenders will be happy to give money because of them. You might not get that money, but how can we make it better? We need to negotiate from day one, and then saying that you'll be the last one to receive on the waterfall that distribution. I will be the first one to get that money first. Does it work, you think? No management company will sign that contract with you at all. They will never even consider that. So I think to make it fair and even, you need to negotiate right and make sure that you're not left out in the equation. So you need to make sure that your money is yours, not theirs. Your money is yours. And in the game, you need to play harder, not softer. It's a business. It is your money, protected and then collected. So has it worked for me, what I said right now? Constantly, I'm trying to improve it. Constantly, I'm trying to get more money out of it. So I hope in the next 20 years, I'll probably have more money and then I'll have been profitable.
I'm just going to jump in quickly there because I think that's a slightly dark portrayal of how it can be. I have seen operators make an awful lot of money for their owners and generate significantly more money than you would have got yourself. I'm going to throw you in, Ali.
Yeah, I think, listen, you say it's dark, but it's not unseen, right? I mean,
no, that's true.
It's a very real sort of narrative on what can happen. And I think in response to a couple of things, really, I think one is about, you described negotiating very hard, and I think I agree with that, but I would sort of slightly term it differently, which is it has to be much more clear and open, and simulations run to say, when it runs in the first 3 months, this is what's going to happen. Because the truth is that I'm an owner and an operator, but as an operator, I don't want the brain damage either of that phone call at the end of the first month and say, hey, what happened? Yeah. Why did it turn out like this? Because guess what? It was always going to turn out like that. Yeah. And we all knew it, right? So there's no running and there's no hiding. And I think you say it should start on day one. It shouldn't start on day one. The negotiation and the discussion and the simulations and the open discussion should start at minus day 60 or minus day 90 or minus day 365 or however long it takes to do a management agreement these days. I think the second thing I would say is that as an operator, and just defending that side of my role just for a bit, there is a big difference between taking money and making money. Mm-hmm. Okay, so as an operator in a traditional structure, I may take my base fee every day, but I can guarantee you that that amount of money is not going to make money for me in terms of what I need to put into the hotel to make it successful. Honestly, it won't. And I think, as an operator, I would be okay with open book accounting on that, to say, you know what, this is the cost of all the things I'm doing to ramp up this business that needs a lot more attention and incubation in the early stages, and the base fee doesn't even come close to what it costs me. Yeah.
So. There's also another aspect, first of all, it's setting the expectations. I think that's what you're trying to do, and it's right. Yeah. And I think Haddis is a perfect example where he had no expectation. He said it himself. He actually got in there by default, so no one explained to him what is going to happen. Yep. And it's part of the responsibility of the operator to do this, usually, if you want to set up a proper foundation for the relationship. Now, your story is not full story. You just painted a part of it. No. The other part, which you did not describe, is the asset is still yours. The value of the asset, the value of all the future income or profit is yours, not the operator's. So you're taking the biggest risk, for sure, no question. But you're also taking the biggest reward.
If I want to rebut on these things, let's be clear. Of course, it's my money. I have not seen you contribute anything. Yeah. So at the end of the day, I should get all the benefits. But the reason I gave you the opportunity is that because you told me you're going to make more money for me, not for you. So let's be clear here. So I have dropped, example, I'm so sorry, please don't get me wrong. I really should not get misunderstood. I really like the brands because they add value, they make money for me and all those things. But the question of, the point which I want to make is that the distribution. In terms of the distribution, average top line, 10% produced probably goes to them. In other words, let's be specific. If you look at the top line, let's say 10 million a year you do, 10%, $1 million, it goes to them. Now, that is no risk, a clean one. How much is going to be for the owners as a return going to be? In a textbook, theoretically, it says that between 18 to 25% you should take as a return because it's a healthy return, because that's an equity return, all great things we can talk about. But the truth is, it is not going to happen because we can do the numbers and I can show you all those things. I've been there. So what I'm trying to say is that, can I get more money for my money? Can I be first in the line? What they will tell you is that, no, this is how the business works. You always had the wrong guy. You always had the underdog, the last person to benefit. I'm so sorry, I'm not going to dramatize it, but the truth is, it is not clearly spelled out to you. And you assume that this guy knows everything, and they're going to give you the right thing. And then I'm not bitter. I'm a happy guy because I don't think about hotels because they will manage it and they give me return. It could work much better if we really change the way it should dealt to us.
Just going to throw Alex.
Yeah, I think it's important just to remember that we are as operator on OPEX.
Yep.
And if you look at the structure of the fees, of course, we'll get a base fee, mainly base fees and incentive fee. The base fee is pretty much to cover our fixed cost. On the incentive fee, I think the evolution of the industry is much more towards alignment of interest, whereby if we don't generate profit for the owner, we're not going to generate any profit for us. And that's where we take the risk, because the reality is that when we sign an HMA in Africa, yeah, you might have the impression that the operator is not taking any risk. But what do we have to back all the HMAs we're signing in Africa? We've got 20 people based in Johannesburg with all the functions to support the hotel. We've got 130 people in Dubai, sitting in Dubai, and actually supporting the hotel. And that's our CapEx. And that's where we are investing our money to make sure that we'll be able to generate the best value for the owner, and in the end, the best value for us, because our return on investment is the fees we generate. And I think that's something very important to keep in mind. Again, our business model is very different from the business model of being an investor. Accor was previously an investor. We've decided actually to split that. I'm sure it's certainly working better today, because I think each partner, I was not at Accor at the time where the investment arm of Accor and the operator arm was in the same thing. But I can imagine that it was pretty much the operator here and the guy sitting in the open space on the thing, pretty much doing the investments. Yeah. And I don't know, maybe that's not the best nature of relationship today. We've got investment platforms at Accor. We've got Accor Invest in Europe. We've got indirectly Casada here in Africa. And I think each is focusing on what they should do. We're focusing on being an operator, on investing where we believe we need to invest to continue creating value for our partners. So that's investing in digital, it's investing in distribution, making sure that the market disruptors are not killing our business model. And these owners and these investors, they're they're here to optimize the value of the asset. And well, sometimes they think that it's by partnering with it, they would do that. And the fact that each of us is actually focusing on what they should do, certainly in the end, globally creates more value than before, where it was pretty much in the same room.
I mean, back in the late 90s, I was part of the Richard Ellis team, CB Richard Ellis, who sort of helped break up the bricks from the brains, that asset-light strategy that came through. And the plan was that basically each party has its own skill set. What we haven't mentioned, we're talking about the owners putting all the cash in and the operators don't put any skin in the game. They've actually spent an awful lot of money and a lot of years and a lot of skill building a brand that adds value and actually generates revenue and business and bookings and actually holds the hotel up. One of the things I love most about brands, and this goes for the white labels as well, bringing in, it actually means that my hotel, when I go to sell it in 20 years' time, is still running well, is still repaired well. They've been putting in an FF&E reserve that keeps the capital value of my initial investment up. So it's a really important part going forward. But it does lead me to another question I sometimes have, and this, I'm going to aim at the operators on it. What are the problems you find with some of the owners? Is it unrealistic expectations? Is it that inability to put further capex in going forward? I mean, what are the problems that you find facing, you know, from your owners? What are the, and no names, no pack drill, I don't want any stories that's going to get you into trouble. But where do you find problems in this? I call it still a marriage. I don't care what you say, Bani.
Clearly, in Africa, I would say at all levels of the development stage, whether it's pre-opening, post-opening, the challenges we face are all related to planning. So whether it's time planning, whether it's resources planning, whether it's financial planning. So all the problems we have to deal with are related to this. And I do feel the frustration of Haddis. And I think our model is slightly different in this sense. And when I said we service, we're not in a marriage, is that we truly work for the owner. So, I mean, we have a couple of examples where, and you know, one of them where we sat down with the owners to see how they can service their debt. Yeah. Okay? And so we don't just limit ourselves to the boundaries of, you know, doing the revenue management, the recruitment, the training, etc. But we sit down and see how we can help them refinance if there's a need of refinancing, restructure, you know, improve the property, etc. So we do this as well. But the problems we face are primarily related to planning.
This is more like a marriage, again, as I like to say, because you're looking after all of the needs of
we look at it as a service, because at the end of the day, I'm benefiting from this service. I'm providing a service. And then if I'm operating a property, it's not generating, the owner is not able to service his debt, then at the end of the day, I'm going to be out one way or another.
Fair enough.
So it's in my interest to see how I can help him service his debt, right?
Yep, no, that's true. Ali, have you got any horror
Yeah,
stories?
I think not horror stories exactly, but I mean, trying to stick with the marriage theme, I suppose, is that a lot of the owners that I'm working with are first-time owners, and you know, as I've said, you know, I try to practice what I preach, which is that we like to have lots of transparency, very open about how fantastic it could be, but also how awful it could turn very easily. So a delay, for example, it throws all your planning, doesn't it? And all of it ends up being a financial impact at the end of the day. Let's be honest. So if everything's delayed, then your resources are delayed, your construction is delayed, everything hits you financially. And I think it's not really a challenge that I face, but what I think is that irrespective of how open you are, irrespective of how realistic you are, or if you like, how pessimistic you are about how bad things could get with your owner, by the time they've got to a place where they want to own a hotel, they're on a romantic journey.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you can't own an airline, the next best thing is a hotel, isn't it? You know, and I particularly found this when I was working in India. You know, I draw parallels to this, is that, you know, the owners would hear the bits, they'd hear it all, but they'd focus on the bits they liked. Mm-hmm. So when things then ran a cropper, they would say, yeah, but you know, why has it gone this way? And you say, well, we said it could be anywhere on this spectrum, right? And what you focused on is the bit that fits with the romantic idea that you have in your mind about owning a hotel. And I think that whole piece of keeping it really real, keeping the dialogue very open, not waiting for the owner to start tapping you on the shoulder and saying, why don't you do it like this, you should do it like that, my mate's got a hotel and his brand do it like that, and all that, is to actually take them on the journey. Because the truth is that, particularly with new owners and new territories, us as brands, we're learning at the same time. We're both learning. And so I think that whole piece about over-romanticizing what it is to own a hotel is a really big issue. It's genuine.
Brilliant. I'm going to pass this back to Haddis, but just while I'm doing that, I'd like anyone in the audience to think of any questions you want to ask these guys, because you don't often get a chance to basically quiz these guys on why they should use an operator or what the problems are. So please think of any questions, and I'll come back to you in a minute about Haddis.
Okay. I think I just to reiterate again, saying that brands improve your value, your assets, and then they create wealth for you as well. I'm not denying that. But what I'm saying is, your asset is valued on the multiplier of your EBITDA. In other words, your actual value created for you. So we can talk about these things again and again. My point is that I invest money to get a return, and that return is measured in any forms that whether I have grown my wealth or destroyed. So and the operators probably might not get this concept because they are not balance sheet oriented. They are income statement, finished. They look at the income statement, calculate top line, that's the margin, this is the incentive we taking, this is your beta. They don't even put cash flow related issue. So if we really are going to be honest about it, we can talk about it. But the fact is, because you have invested, you have to do the entire cycle of the whole process, because that's, you have to do the auditors, you have to pay you have to do all those things. So when you look at it, have your asset valuation remain constant, grown, or dropped? So you look at your multipliers. Your multipliers are telling you, well, you have not achieved that. So effectively, I think the part which I'm learning more right now is that, and I'm recommending whoever is going to get engaged in this type of process, new owners, one thing you should not forget is that ask yourself why you are in the hotel business and why you want to do hotel. And what is in it for you? You must ask yourself. It's not, yes, it's glamorous, it's beautiful, and all those things. I mean, it can be hotel owners dress nice, and then every night is a tuxedo night. It's not. So
it's not James.
It is not. It is not. It is, the reality is that it's a business which shall generate for you an income, and in which you have invested to create wealth for yourself. Not for anybody else, for yourself. Start thinking that, am I going to make money out of that or not? If you cannot answer that question, don't get involved. It's not your game. So then once you make that decision, yes, you have to be patient. You have to be understanding the right things. But you have also to do the right things. Negotiate and then see if you can tell them that step aside. Meaning that this month you're not going to take money home. You're not going to get paid because I didn't get my money yet. So there are many other ways of you can approach it. So in other words, what I'm saying is that brands are not evil. They are great people. I really have to work with them. I recommend you to do and then do with them. But answer the question. Answer the question. Answer the question. Answer the question is that.
Have you seen the time?
Answer the question is that. Do you really that they're going to create value for you or not?
But this is a very good point, actually. The brands are very good, but maybe you have to do it, the brand, through people like us. Because
well done, Benny.
I like that.
Because the reality is, you know, and I mean, we have real examples where companies like us, and we actually do these stand aside, you know, and we understand. I mean, again, as I said, if the owner is not able to pay his bank, you know, the next thing that's going to happen, the bank is going to call him and say, hey, you're blacklisted, you're going to, you know, foreclose. So, and then this will also have a negative impact on us. So we're ready to do this.
And I think the good thing about your structure is that if the operator is not good, but the brand is good, you can actually still keep the brand and get rid of the operator.
Yeah,
so it's...
You see, they have not answered yet. Can they make money for me? They're not answering that part. They keep on telling you how good they are. The question is, can you make more money for me? Can you answer that?
Okay, we're down to the last minute. Are there any questions in the audience we want to get through? Yes, Gilad, can you?
Thank you, gents, for the insight. I'm representing Ambassador Hotel in Hargeisa, Somaliland, where you've been to, of course, Dave. In terms of making money for me as a hotel, the hotel that I'm representing, 137 rooms, 80,000 square meters, 90% occupancy rate, 78% gross operating profit. You know, can you bring value? Can you make me more money? These are the sort of questions that I'm asking myself now. Thank you.
If you're making 78% gross profit, they're not going to make more money for you. No, but I mean, it depends what your gross operating profit is.
If I understand your question correctly, that you're an independent hotel, you've got fantastic operating tradings, what can we add, right?
Yeah.
I mean, certainly things, we need to work on the numbers. Certainly we can add some value added potentially on your average price by, you know, bringing your brand. Sometimes you can improve your your average price. We can potentially help you in terms of distribution mix. I don't know to what extent you're reliant on one or two channels. Maybe we can help you actually optimize your distribution mix thanks to global contracts we've negotiated with XYZ being OTAs or our sales teams kind of things, which would impact the top line. So I don't know, maybe in your case it's just a franchise that you need. And we're not going to bring anything in operation. You know, in France, most of our hotels are actually through franchise, and there are markets where franchisees do the job better than we do it. So we just focus on bringing the value that we think we can bring, yeah.
Well, I'm going to bring this to an end because we are out of time. What I will say is that when you first go into a negotiation, you may feel that the operator is very powerful. Remember, as an owner, you've got the money, so you are just as powerful. Get good advice. Don't go on your own. Go in with an expert. You'll end up fighting on a level playing field. And that way it can work long term. Anyway, I'd like to say thank you very much to my panel. I think you've been excellent.
Sure.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.